What is going on, guys, girls, and cats? It's Girlcatlove1524, and we're back with another video. And today we are going to be doing a statue tutorial, and this statue tutorial is going to be popular MMOs. So we are going to need specific blocks to build his skin. So let's get started. I'm going to search up wool here. So first off, you are going to need blue wool. You're going to need cyan wool, you're going to need light blue wool, you're going to need black wool, white wool, gray wool, light gray wool. You're going to need yellow wool, and you are also going to need some black or brown wool. So this should be enough for your hotbar unless you're on Minecraft PE. But let's get started right now. So first off, you're going to find the area you are going to put your statue. And you're going to start off with 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, another light gray wool, and 2 gray wool. Just like this. Pause it if necessary, or pause the video if it's necessary. Next row, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 2 gray wool, like this. Next, you're going to do 3 light gray wool, then 2 blue wool, 3 light gray wool, and there you go, and you're done with your 3rd row. Now, for the next row, you're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 blue wool, and 3 gray wool, like so. Again, pause if necessary. Next row, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, gray wool, 2 blue wool, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, and 1 gray wool, like this. Now we are almost halfway done with the legs. Next row, 3 gray wool, 2 blue wool, and 3 gray wool again, like this. Your statue right now should look exactly like how it looks right here. For the next row, you're going to do 1 black wool, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, 2 blue wool, 1 black wool, 1 gray wool, and 1 black wool, like so. For the next row, you're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 blue wool, and 3 gray wool, like so. For the next row, all black wool, like this. Pause if necessary. And next, 1 gray wool, 1 blue wool. Could do 4 light gray wool, 1 blue wool, and 1 gray wool, like so. For the next row, we're going to do 2 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, 2 black wool, 1 gray wool, and 2 light gray wool. Actually, I went white there. Alright. For the next row, do 1, 2, 3 gray wool. I'm going to do 2 light gray wool and 3 gray wool, like so. You're almost finished with the legs now. For the next row, which is going to be a lot easier, I'm going to do 2 gray wool, 1 black wool, 2 gray wool, 1 black wool, and 2 gray wool. Pause if necessary. I'm going to give you a little look at what it looks like right now. And you are now done with the legs, but we're going to keep on going up. So, for the next row, you're going to do 2 black wool on each sides. You're going to do 4 gray wool, like so. For the next row, you're going to do all black wool. For the next row, all black wool again. And now pay attention, because it's going to get a little more complicated here. You're going to do one light gray wool, one gray wool, one light gray wool, one black wool, one gray wool, one light gray wool, one gray wool, and one light gray wool, like so. For the next row, 2 gray wool, 1 black wool, 2 light gray wool, 1 black wool, and 2 gray wool, like this. Then it's going to be the same for the next 3 rows. So go 1, 2, 3, like this, and just build like that. Pause the video right now if it is necessary so you can catch up on what we're doing. For the next row, we're going to do 2 blue wool, 1 black wool, then we're going to do 2 light gray wool, black wool, and 2 blue wool. For the next row, 1 blue wool, 1 white wool. You're going to do 1 light gray wool. Actually, whoops, sorry. You're going to do a yellow wool, black wool, gray wool, yellow wool, white wool, and blue wool. Now, you only have to do 1 more row till you're at the head. So for the next row, I'm going to do 2 white wool, and then you're going to do 1 black wool, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, 1 gray wool, and then 2 white wool, like this. Now you have that done, and we're going to go ahead and go towards the arms, which the arms right now are going to go right here. So here, we're going to do 2 black wool, a gray wool, and a black wool. Do that on both sides because they are identical on both sides. So now you're going to have this. For the next row, you're going to do 1 black wool, a light gray wool, 2 black wool. Next row, you're going to do 2 light gray wool up 2 times, like that. And then same with the black. For the next row, 1 light gray wool, 3 black wool. For the next row, 2 rows of black wool, like this. For the next row, 2 black wool and 2 light gray wool. For the next row, you're going to do 1 black wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool. For the next row, you are going to do 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, and 1 blue wool. For the next row, you are going to do 2 gray wool, 1 black wool, and a blue wool. And for the last row on the arm, you're going to do 2 gray wool, you're going to do a black wool, and you're going to do a white wool. Now you're going to have to copy this on this arm here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And just gotta look at it. Alright. Well, just do the same thing on both sides. I'll just kind of show you really quickly, and it's going to be pretty brief on how to do this again. So just look at the side. That's what I'm doing. I'm just looking at the side here, like so, and then I'm doing that, and then there, just kind of looking on at it. And don't worry if you can't get it, just I'm gonna, oh my gosh, I'm going to let you pause it in a second here. Alright, so there's the arms. Pause it if you need to. Alright. The last thing we are going to do is the head, to let you know. Now, you are going to go out by here, 1, 2, 3. So right here, you are going to start building. So, going to do 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and 1 light gray wool, like so. For the next row, you're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 brown wool, and 3 gray wool. For the next row, you're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 light blue wool, and 3 gray wool. For the next row, I'm going to do 2 yellow wool, 1 light blue wool, 2 blue wool, a light blue wool, and 2 yellow wool. For the next row, 2 gray wool, 4 blue wool, and 2 gray wool. For the next row, 1 light blue wool, 6 blue wool, and a light blue wool. For the next few rows until you get to the hand here, the block below the hand, you're just going to do the same exact thing. So right here, you're going to just build up right to this point, and you're going to fill it in with blue wool, as you see here. So just go ahead, do that really quickly, and pause the video if necessary right here. Alright, for the next row, we're going to do 1 light blue wool, 2 blue wool, 2 light blue wool, 2 blue wool, and 1 light blue wool. For the next row, we are going to do 1 light blue wool, 1 blue wool, 1 light blue wool, 2 cyan wool, 1 light blue wool, 1 blue wool, and 1 light blue wool, like so. We are doing the cape. For the next row, 2 light blue wool, 4 cyan wool, and 2 light blue wool. Do that again, like so. For the next row, we're going to do 1 light blue wool, 1 blue wool, 1 light blue wool, 2 cyan wool, 1 light blue wool, 1 blue wool, and 1 light blue wool, like that. For the next row, we're going to do 1 light blue wool, 2 blue wool, 2 light blue wool, 2 blue wool, and 1 light blue wool. Sorry, I have to do that. Alright. For the next row, we're going to do 1 light blue wool and 6 blue wool, like that. And for the next row, we're going to do 1, 2, 3 blue wool. We're going to do 1 white wool, 3 blue wool, actually 4 blue wool, sorry. For the next row, we are going to do 3 blue wool, yet again, 2 white wool, and 3 blue wool, like that. For the next row, we are going to do 3 blue wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 white wool, and 3 blue wool. For the next row, we are going to do 2 blue wool, 1 white wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 white wool, and 2 blue wool. And for the last row, we are going to do 1 black wool, 1 light gray wool, 3 gray wool, and 2 light gray wool, and 1 black wool, like so. Now we are going to do the sides. It doesn't really matter what side for the arm, and you're just gonna copy it. Just gonna copy exactly what it shows on this side, because there's nothing different, nothing really much to explain. Just do what it shows right there. Same exact thing. Not too difficult. Oops. Except one little thing you got to remember here. So once you are right to here, the next one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of that. Cool. So you gotta remember that. And not just that, you also have to fill it in like that. So do specifically what I said right there. You're gonna fill it in like so. There. So let me just show you again. Go like that. Go like that. That. And after that, I'm gonna just, gonna fill up until it's 3 blocks left. So like that. In this area, you're going to copy what's right there. So pretty easy, just like gray wool on both sides. And for up here, you're going to do gray wool. And then right here, 1 black wool. So let's do that. There you go. Now you got the back side. Now you're going to do the sides. It doesn't really matter which side you choose. They're both the same. Each side doesn't really matter. But let's get started. So we're going to do 2 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and 1 light gray wool and a gray wool. Next row, gonna do a brown wool and a gray wool. Next row, 2 gray wool, same with the other row. And then for the next row, you're going to do brown wool. For the next row, gray wool. For the next row, brown wool. For the next row, black wool. Whoops. For the next row, we're going to do 1 gray wool and a black wool. For the next row, we're going to do 1 light gray wool and 1 gray wool. For the next row, we are going to do a black wool and a light gray wool. Alright. Now we got under the hand here. And for here, you're going to do 2 gray wool, 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and 1 black wool, and 2 gray wool, like so. Then, for here, you're just going to easily do 2 light gray wool, and then 2 black wool, 2 light gray wool. And after that, you're going to do very simply 2 more light gray wool. And then you're going to do 2 layers of black wool. And then 2 gray wool, 1 gray wool, and a light gray wool. And finally, black wool, like so. There you go. You got one side of the arm finished and legs. So you're just going to go here and you're going to copy exactly what you did. This is just a little quick part that I'm just going to show you quickly. Very quickly, actually. So just do this and copy it completely. There's nothing that's going to be different on either side. The skin has a lot of different coloring and stuff to it, so just, copy it. It's not too hard. Alright. And there we go. For the next row, here we are doing light wool, light gray wool. So just copy exactly what you did on that other side. And then once you have that finished, right here, you got that all finished. Now we're going to go ahead and do the shoulders, which I guess are a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to go to this side. So we're going to do 2 gray wool, 2 blue wool, 1 white wool, and a blue wool. I do that on the other side as well. So pretty simple. Just gonna do this. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the head. So first off, while doing the head, you're going to take some black wool and you're going to cross like so, exactly 8 blocks. And you're going to go out by 2. And then since he has a mask, this is the actual layer. So you're going to start out with 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, and then 2 black wool, 2 gray wool, and 1 light gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 2 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, 2 black wool, 1 gray wool, and 2 light gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 black wool, 3 gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 3 gray wool, 2 black wool, and 3 gray wool again. And for the next row, we are going to do gray wool, cyan wool, light blue wool, 2 black wool, and then we're going to do light blue wool and a cyan wool, and then 1 gray wool. That was the eyes. Next, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, and then 4 gray wool, black wool, and a gray wool. We're almost done with the front part of the head. Next is going to be 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 4 gray wool, and actually 5 gray wool, like so. Pause it if necessary. For next row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, light gray wool, 2 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and a gray wool, like so. There we go. Now we got the mask. Now I'm gonna go ahead, take black wool, and go out, and have it 2 blocks out, like so. we go. Actually, remove this layer because there's not a mask on the back of the head. So this is going to be a little more difficult, but we're going to go ahead and do it. So we're going to do 2 light gray wool, 1 white wool, then we're going to do 3 light gray wool, and 1 white wool, and a gray wool, like so. For the next row, we're going to do 2 light gray wool, 1 white wool. We're going to do 5 light gray wool. For the next row, we are going to be doing 3 light gray wool, 1 white wool, then 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and 2 light gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, 3 light gray wool, then 1 white wool, and then you're going to do 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 1 gray wool, like that. It's a little more difficult, so you gotta pay complete attention to this. Alright, so this is our 4th row. For the next row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, 2 light gray wool, 3 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 1 gray wool. Alright, for the next row, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 2 gray wool. For the next row, 1 black wool, 2 gray wool, 2 light gray wool, and then 2 gray wool and 1 black wool, like this. And then for the last row, you're going to do 2 light gray wool, or 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 2 gray wool, like so. And that includes the sides, because we're going to need to do the sides here. And for both sides, we're going to remove this, because we got to replace it. Alright. For this row, we're going to do 1 black wool, 3 white wool, 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, and 1 gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 2 gray wool, 1 white wool, 3 light gray wool, and 1 gray wool. For the next row, we are going to be doing 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 4 gray wool. For the next row, we are going to do 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 4 gray wool. Gosh, I cannot speak today, can I? Alright. For the next row, we're going to do 2 black wool, 2 light gray wool, or 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 2 gray wool. Whew. For the next row, we're going to do 4 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 2 gray wool. And for the next row, we are going to do 1, 2, 3 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 2 gray wool, and a black wool. And for the last row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and 2 light gray wool. Copy that on the other side. So, yeah. I'm just going to show you this part here. Just if you forgot. There you go. Now, you're just going to copy the exact same thing I have shown you right here. So, you're just going to copy it. Alright. There we go. Whew. And then up there, like so. Gray wool, black wool, light gray wool, gray wool, gray wool, light gray wool, gray wool. Alright, now for the last, final part of PopularMMOs' skin, we have to do the top of the head. So, yeah, let's get started. 3 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 1 gray wool, and a black wool. For the next row, we're going to do 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and then 2 gray wool, and then 1 light gray wool, like so. For the next row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool. Okay. Time set day. 1 gray wool, 1 black wool, 1 gray wool, and 1 light gray wool. For the next row, we are going to do 1 light gray wool, 3 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 1 gray wool. For the next row, we are going to do 1 light gray wool, 3 gray wool, 1 black wool, and 1 gray wool. For the next row, we're going to do 2 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, and 3 gray wool. And for the last and final one row, we're going to do 1 gray wool, 1 light gray wool, 3 gray wool, and 1 black wool. And here you have it. You have PopularMMOs. His skin in Minecraft that you, specifically you, have built. To the side, and back of him, and there you go. You have made PopularMMOs' skin, and if you guys enjoyed this how to build PopularMMOs statue tutorial, be sure to click that like button down below and subscribe if you want, and click that like button for more statue tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video. So, bye-bye.